Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Steve with Ekkomouse, and I thought I'd do a quick rundown of something I've been working on for a little while, and I think I've got it at least finished to a point where it does what I originally set out to do, which was to try to give myself a better viewpoint of what's going on from my Mastermind PBC controller, which is a very powerful Midi and loop interface. I have a lot of pedals, as you can see. Most of them are MIDI controllable, and then we do some switching of presets from Ableton Live, and there's a lot of MIDI flying around, so the Mastermind is very important to that. One of the drawbacks of the Mastermind, unfortunately, is that it does have kind of a small interface screen, and a lot of the information is very compact and not exactly 100% intuitive, especially if you're talking about trying to figure out what you've got outside of the Mastermind. So what I've done is I've actually created an interface that works through Lemur, and it actually gives me a broad overview and gives me page switching, and it switches automatically as I switch the Mastermind. So right now we're in the presets area, and that's generally where my Mastermind starts off. And so you can see that as I hit a page, in this case we went to loops, the iPad interface screen changed. If I went to a different page, say my MIDI pedals, you can see the iPad interface changes, and it matches both lighting and function of the Mastermind. And so what I don't have to do anymore, at least unless I want to, is label, with 7, 8, 9, 10 different labels, because to be honest with you, I have about 12 pages used in the Mastermind. I've got a lot of custom functionality set up for different pedals and different scenarios, and I don't always use them, so it's difficult to remember all of these custom button functions. And so you either got to write them on the board or come up with a piece of paper, which is clunky if your hands are full with a guitar, or in this case this was my solution to come up with an interface that gave me the ability to kind of get a quick overview. And so what I'll do is I'll just kind of show you what I do with it. And so basically at the top here, very top, you can see my different pages. And so as I switch pages, Lemur reads that and then switches the page for me at the top. You can see I'm going from presets to loops. Now on each page is kind of an overview of what what the Mastermind actually looks like, and the buttons that are available. And so you can see when I've got one white label, that's the main function. The second label, see Boost X down there, is the secondary function. If I press and hold that, that goes and tells me through the interface that I just hit the boost, which is generally where my boost is on my Kemper amp. It also notified me in a couple different areas just on that particular page. If I leave this page and I go to loops, you can see my boost is still active. So at the bottom of the screen I've got a general overview of what is still going on separately from what screen I'm on, so I don't have to always jump back to another screen. And that was kind of one of the larger benefits of this setup and putting so much time into programming it. So when we change presets, you've got 10 loops, and basically you could be on your preset page, and yes, the screen does tell you what loops are active, but I feel like it's a little it's just a little small. There's no names. Your brain has to kind of think about it. And then in my case, I have pre and post on some of my pedals to where they're applied to the beginning or the end, and so I thought it would be better to lay it out. So you can see as I switch through presets, both the active loops and the preset number actually changes. So preset 1, see preset 2, 3, the caveman comes active. 4, I have looks like 6 pedals active. Preset 5, just the analog drive. You can see these are different per preset, and so that's nice that it's always active. At the same time, I could go into the loops page, and you can see the interface changes and it displays all of my loops. You can see how I have everything programmed there, and so I've got my primary functions and my secondary functions again. So on loop 1, I've got a boost. If I want to boost the Kemper, it's right there. I also have the electro harmonics, got the bit commander, Mobius. This is kind of a complicated button. This is both on. Generally it starts off, but I have it handling both. This one loop handles both an H9 and a Mobius in the pre position. So the first press gets me the H9, second press gets me the Mobius, and then the third press gets me both, and the fourth press gets me off. Like I said, we usually send preset changes from Ableton, so I'm not doing a lot of tap dancing, so it's not really important for me to be able to flip those on and off on the fly. You can see my caveman comes active and off, Karma Suture, active and off. Then we've got Mobius Post, which I don't use a whole lot. H9 Post, Timeline, and Big Sky, those are on a lot. For me, those generally stay on. So that's loops. If I went back and I did back to presets, which is kind of my starting point, we go to MIDI pedals. You can see I've got different, these are basically bank up buttons. It's a page of banks, and so I've got an analog drive by Electron, which is a MIDI distortion pedal, and that's button 1 and 2. So those take my presets up and down. Those are just color coded, and they match the Mastermind, and so that's something you could program into it. It's kind of neat. Same with Timeline, Mobius, Big Sky, and H9. If we go back, you can see that I've also got access from presets. I can go, I know I can go to my switches by holding this, and then this is my Kemper switches, my Mastermind. And you can see that in the lower right corner here, it gives me the overview. For me, this doesn't really change much. I think if I were to change something, it would be maybe a parallel line, but in all honesty, they generally stay the same. So that's pretty static for me, but those do light up and change as we go. If I come back here to presets, and let's say I want to go to, you can see I have both Kemper Effects and Kemper Perform. Those are kind of two functions on the Kemper. I thought that I'd separate them per page. So if I went to Kemper Perform, that's where we have presets set in the Kemper, and it looks similar to the preset page of the main, but this has to do with really the Kemper presets and not specifically the Mastermind. If you know what a Kemper amp is, you know that it has its own preset performance slots with 5 different slots, and so this is just another way to kind of interface with that without having to buy their floorboard. And so that made the Mastermind, you know, more important for me. I've got quick shortcuts to the Kemper effects. Oh, I'm sorry, that was effect reset. Here's Kemper effects, and basically from here you can see that I can turn on and off stomp A, stomp B, stomp C, stomp D, and so you can see in the lower center of the screen those will turn on and off. I also have access to the X button again, which generally for me is a boost, but I may change that from time to time, so I still reference the X. I also have mod and send, which for me is almost always on, so it's really a secondary function. You can see the green light there. If I want to turn it off though, I can, but the reason that's almost always on is it's required for me to loop, get this pedal board into the send and return loop of the Kemper. I also have the delay, and then we also have reverb with tail, which again for me is generally on. I use a super light reverb just on the Kemper in the event that the Mastermind stopped working or the Big Sky stopped working. That way it's not 100% dry, it's just a very, very light tail of reverb. But I also have another cool thing, which is probably my favorite part, is we have a MIDI capable reflex expression controller, and I also have the standard source audio expression controller, and the standard one on the right here, this does the Kemper morph, so that isn't really interfaced with the Lemur screen, but this other one here, this has the ability to do up to 128 presets. It can control drive on the analog, it controls the Mobius, there's a timeline back there, a Big Sky, it can control the H9, it can control the PBC, it can just control a lot of different things, and so again it gets a little complicated. And so if I go to my reflex control page, this is what's pretty neat about the Lemur is I can actually update. I'm actually moving my expression pedal, and you can see where you're at on there. And the reason that's important is that the reflex actually has LFO waves, sine, square, random, sawtooth. It'll actually send out to the various pedals. And so the way I have this organized is each one of my MIDI capable pedals that I might manipulate, timeline, Mobius, Big Sky, H9, PBC, and then all. These are kind of my shortcuts. So if I come here and I hit the timeline, you can see that it jumped over into the timeline saw, and right now I'm backing off the expression pedal, and it slows the sawtooth. It's still an automatic expression movement that the reflex is sending out, but I get to control that with the pedal. I can go from fast to slow. And so I've organized these to kind of just send out. In this case it's random, this case it's normal, so it doesn't move on its own, I have to move the pedal. And then this one is sine, this is the real smooth one. In this way I can set up control of all of the expression. I can actually have it go automatic, and then you can get some pretty crazy effects going. And it's important that we have the visual factor, because you don't, you know, the reflex doesn't have a like a text screen on it where you can tell exactly what it's controlling. That's one of the drawbacks to it. And so I thought that the visual feedback was really important for that kind of pedal. At the same time, you can see that I do have PBC expression pedal grouping as well. And then at the bottom of this, you can see at my timeline sign, it tells me where I'm at on each one. If I go to a different pedal, Mobius sine wave, Mobius saw, here's Big Sky sine wave. This would be H9, cycling through the exact same settings. And then this one up here is all. That's where I'm actually controlling every pedal, and that's if I want to get some crazy effects. Now you see that the area went blank below the fader, and that's unfortunately a limitation for Lemur. It can only hold 32 names in that menu system there, unfortunately, so I can't match it. But the chances of me using more than the 32 presets is pretty low, so I've come to terms with it. So if I go to pedal grouping, you can see the second one changes, and this is the PBC's pedal grouping 1 through 4. Right now it's selected on the electron analog drive gain. If I hit it again, it changes to the Kemper feedback. If I hit it again, it goes to verb. And if I want to control the PBC specifically, I hit the PBC expression button. It's on sine wave, and then I go to the parameter I want to change. In this case, if I go to the Kemper wah, it's an auto wah. So now I've got a sine wave controlling the Kemper wah. Oops, camera was going off there. Sine wave is controlling the Kemper wah, and you can see the movement. So as I push forward on the expression pedal, it speeds it up. and I'm getting that visual feedback. And that's actually the wah movement that is happening with the sine wave that's getting sent out from the reflex controller. So that was a pretty cool feature. A few other things that I've programmed in here is this one is for a voice controller, just another page. Kemper effects, we already touched on that. Reflex control, touched on that. Loop effects, these are just shortcuts for when I want to loop. Ableton control, which you can see is not really set up, but something I plan to possibly incorporate. This would maybe be to change tracks on Ableton, or maybe do some other cool stuff. But this one is important. This is a Ditto X4 Looper page, and this is MIDI capable. And it's important because the Ditto has built-in effects, and so you can turn them on and off based on how you want to do it. Unfortunately, if you send a MIDI message, the pedal itself does not update. It has manual knobs, and those knobs don't turn, and there's no LED light system in there. So this was, the Mastermind was another reason, or I'm sorry, the Mastermind provided another way to interface and view that. So as I add buttons, you can see my Ditto screen here lights up. And so the Ditto actually allows you to turn on multiple effects at once. Some of these you won't use on your looper, but there could be a way that you know, the first two I did, reverse and then half speed, you could definitely use those. And then maybe you want to turn one off, so you hit it again, and then you want to turn reverse off, you hit that again. It happens to have double time on. Just turn that off. That's just MIDI. Sometimes the button, just one of the drawbacks to using MIDI, so you may have to hit it a second time. But the once effect, the tape stop effect, that's really a holding thing. Fade out, that's one to try. And again, you can see sometimes the button requires a double. Now generally the PBC, if I have to hit it double, the PBC has sent the message, but the Lemur may not have read it for some reason. I have found that occasionally MIDI messages do get lost, so that is one drawback to this kind of system, but it's not often enough that I can't basically get around and figure it out. The original idea for this was just to give me a broad overview, just a visual menu system, so I didn't have to label the board. And then as I got into it, I realized that I could get visual feedback on buttons and effects that were active, and so that was a pretty cool function for me. If I quickly go through the rest of my options here, you can see on my loops page I get shortcuts to an H9 looper. So that's, you know, extra stuff to remember. It's not something I use all the time, but now I don't have to remember what button does what, because you can tell on the Kemper, on the PBC, I only have one thing labeled, and if I tried to label 16 pages, that would be a lot of text on my PBC, which would be kind of confusing. So I can go back, and I've also got a timeline looper page, same deal. Other things that are programmed in, not something I use all the time. I usually use the Ditto if I'm going to loop, but it's nice to have the ability to use those functions and know exactly what buttons are what on the Mastermind. So basically, sorry if this was a long video. I felt that it was a pretty thorough system. I think it's pretty cool. There is a bit of a learning curve on Lemur, and that is part of what took me so long. I'm not a natural programmer. I had to do a lot of research and copy and edit, and then incorporating into my template. But once it's done, it's super useful, and I think once you go through the process, the changes aren't that tough. There are a couple ways that RJM could make this a touch easier. I'm kind of hoping maybe he incorporates some of this stuff into Lemur, into the PBC to make the interfacing with Lemur a little easier as far as assigning MIDI CCs to buttons and stuff like that. So hopefully this piques his interest, and otherwise if you guys are curious about it, you can ask me questions on the Mastermind forum, RJM Music Mastermind PBC forum. All right, thanks.